Brittany, you ruined everything. Hey.
So one of us is a special guest, but we don't know who yet.
We have no idea.
So either way, we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, fucking Game of Thrones. Not that, it would have been the Peter Dinklage one.
Oh, yes. Okay, given the two, yes.
First off, very important question. Which house do you like the most and why?
I still really kind of have to say the Starks.
Yeah.
At least what I feel was that it introduced the Starks first as really, really easy to like, and then it was supposed to expand, and you're supposed to be able to like the other houses as you get to know what their values are more. But I still really like the Starks.
I know. I think it is because they are such the quintessential good guys.
Yeah.
And they go through so much crap. I definitely love House Stark, but I have to say, I think my favorite's still the Targaryen. From my shirt. I'm a big Targaryen fan. I don't know, I love the history of the Targaryens. I love the whole, like, the blood of Valyria, fucking dragons, which is awesome. And they look so different from all the other people. I mean, obviously it's because they're from Valyria, but granted in the show it's a little different because they don't have the purple eyes.
Basically what we're saying is that in a show where the strength is basically in the moral gray area, we both still picked the traditionally good.
Yeah.
Targaryens, a lot of them are pretty terrible.
They went crazy. A lot of them are insane.
There are also insane Targaryens. What do you think of the popularity of the show?
I love it. I think it's really cool. Like, it almost, as somebody who watched the show first and then read the books, I almost wonder if I'm missing out on what it felt like before. Like,
yeah, we both missed out on the Game of Thrones hipster.
Yeah, sorry.
So. Actually, I started reading the books before I saw the show, but I knew it was a show.
So you kind of.
Yeah, no, it was already out, and I did it because everybody else was like, "Oh, this is so good."
In terms of the community aspect of it, I do think it's really cool. I like to go into our Game of Thrones on Reddit.
Of course.
And enjoy it. Of course, I haven't been on it much lately because I haven't seen the last, like, 5 episodes.
I just especially appreciate it because it's so rare that what I think is really, really awesome and what people as a whole think is really, really awesome so seldom line up that whenever it lines up, I'm like, yes, finally I get to do things and be excited about the same things that other people are excited about. So that's really nice.
It is. There are very few people that I've met who are anti-Game of Thrones. I've met, like, one person in particular who's very anti-Game of Thrones. And I have to give giant kudos, by the way, to all the people who were fans of the books before the show who didn't spoil anything. You guys are amazing. Because you held on to the Red Wedding for years. How did you do that?
Oh, I did that for a good 6 months.
You did it?
I didn't tell anybody about
My boyfriend's nodding too, that he held it.
Oh man, and it was hard.
I don't know if I could have done it. I think I would have been just going around the streets just going, why? What is the difference between the show and the book that you like, and what's one that you don't like?
I like that the show has more mass appeal, and like usually I mean that in kind of a pejorative, negative way, but I totally don't. I mean it in like the show is about like people and stuff that people care about. Like the books have slightly more limited appeal in that they're about a very like well-formed, well-thought-through world, and you get loads and loads of details. The same appeal as Lord of the Rings, just a very different type of world. Like I totally like the mass appeal stuff, but then it just so happens that the like odd, quirky, geeky stuff is also right up my alley for a different reason.
Right. Do you have any like specific examples though?
I liked the Jon Snow in Ygritte. How do you pronounce her name?
Ygritte?
I read it saying
Ygritte.
I liked their story, particularly the conclusion of that story in the books.
I'll be interested to see how that changes in the show.
I may or may not have seen that earlier today. What Jon went through felt less like a situation that people actually might find themselves in a realistic world and more like a dramatic situation you'd find in fiction.
Yeah.
And whenever the show does something like that, I kind of like,
I didn't realize how different season 2 was in terms of Daenerys' storyline. Like, it's hugely different in the books. So for me, I both like the differences and don't like the differences in season 2. There's that guy that's like, you should marry me, which granted in the books it's very obvious that he's gay. And then what she does with that whole thing without spoiling too much. What they did with the House of Dying in the books is so much better. Once I had read the book, I was kind of like, oh, that's that's different.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you said that, actually, because that's how I felt, but I thought it might just be because I read the book first.
It's good. Read it. Just read it. Just read that section if you don't want to read anything else.
How do you feel about the gradual introduction of magic as time goes on into that world?
I've been interested in that because, for the most part, it's almost realistic, or as realistic as you can get in this kind of, I guess, world. But then you have the introduction of these little strange things, like Bran having the visions, and obviously the dragons. And it has been a really interesting evolution. It's kind of interesting because in the show there's a lot of character development, and it seems like magic has had a character development throughout the show too, and I think that's very on purpose. I don't think that's not deliberate.
And let's not forget, the very first scene in both mediums is slightly supernatural.
But it still seems like a very, I don't want to say maybe pragmatic, but it's a very...
It is kind of a realistic world.
Yeah,
it really
it does feel very real, and then you have, which is why I think people are so skeptical when stuff starts happening.
I know.
It makes you go, okay, good, we're not just accepting this at face value. It's, oh, this is weird.
It's really neat that we as, like, readers or viewers can experience the, like, oh, that's really weird, which is more like what the people involved in the world are probably experiencing because it's not a normal thing for them either.
Who do you think will end up on the Iron Throne?
As far as a dramatic storyline, it's absolutely going to be Daenerys. Obviously, from the very beginning, that was sort of the long-term conflict was Daenerys versus, I guess, the White Walkers, which in the books are more called the Others. But we were just talking about how realistic the world is, and in realistic worlds, dramatic, you know, character arcs and storylines, and, you know, that stuff doesn't happen so much, so I'm not completely sure that that's actually going to happen, but it would make for a very satisfying story.
It would. That's definitely who I want to end up on the Iron Throne. I don't always know if she's going to make it, though.
Obviously, the show has a reputation for killing off the characters you like.
Yep.
And it also has the reputation, as we've been discussing, for the very realistic world. Do you think it gives the impression of not just like an indifferent world, but a world that actually does kind of actively kill off the good guys?
You know, sometimes it does kind of feel like it. It's like every now and again that universe just goes, okay, you know what, we gotta take some people out, it's just time.
I kind of think that when writing, at least at the beginning, George R.R. Martin was kind of like angry with the world, and that like, oh, I'm gonna show how being a good person directly causes you to have a terrible life.
Yeah.
If you actually look at who dies and who lives, it isn't as far in that direction as you would really think.
To me, it seems like the characters who do the best in Westeros, well, in the universe in general, are the ones who are very, like, morally ambiguous. Those ones tend to do very well, like with Littlefinger, for example,
Yes.
or Varys.
Oh, I love Daenerys so
He's
much.
great. He's so great. And also are characters who are very, I guess because they are the morally ambiguous characters, they're not necessarily in the limelight as much. Like they are okay with being sort of in the shadows. Where the heroes and the obvious villains are the ones who are dying left and right sometimes. Mostly the heroes, it seems like. If you were in the Game of Thrones universe, how do you think you would die?
Oh, I would, like, have the least interesting death. I would, like, fall off a horse and my leg would get infected. It would be, like, the stupidest thing that would happen that you would never think was dangerous, and that would absolutely be how I would go. No, I don't think we have what it takes to be one of the people who do stuff. It requires a lot.
I think at the best, I could maybe be a Podrick, who's like maybe like a side character that tries to help the other characters.
If I could manage as much as Podrick does, I would be very content with myself in the world.
He does pretty well.
He really does.
Both in the show and in the book, he does pretty decently. So I think that's our
I think that'll do it.
That was awesome.
I had fun. I hope everybody liked it.
I
it was
had
cool.
fun. I like talking about Game of Thrones.
Everybody likes talking about Game of Thrones.
It's awesome.
It's
a good show. We should talk about other shows sometime. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
we'll do
let
this
us
again.
talk to us. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, comment down below and tell us if you give us your answers to those questions. Yes. What you think? We want to know, and discuss and have a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Have fun.
Yeah.